Hey friends, Peter Faciano here. Welcome back to my series on the Canon M6 Mark II. In today's video, I'm going to go ahead and cover the stabilization found within the camera itself and then pair it up with the stabilization that's found in the EFS lenses that I have. If you watched my previous video, you know that I covered the video quality of 4 different lenses. I ended up sending back the M series lenses and I end up keeping the 10 to 18. I just really like the wide angle that this provides. So this video is not intended just for vloggers. This is also for people that shoot B-roll and want to know kind of how the stabilization works with the lenses and the camera. All right, in order to activate your digital stabilization, make sure your mode dial at the top is set to the camera icon. Click your menu button. You're going to be on the red camera icon, menu number 5, IS settings. From here, you want to enable it. This will be your standard stabilization, and then you can go to enhanced if you want to. Photos, on the other hand, you only get the option to do the regular standard internal stabilization, and this can be found on your red camera icon, menu number 8 for photos. I'm going to take these out to the Hassayampa River Preserve. I'm going to walk around, do some vlogging. I'm also going to take some B-roll shots of the area, hopefully get some pictures of the birds with the 55 to 250, and just see how the stabilization works in general, both in photo and video. So let's go ahead and jump into today's video. I'll see you in a little bit when I get out to the preserve. Okay, so I'm out at the preserve right now, and I'm going to take care of the vlogging thing first. Right now, I have no stabilization on in the camera or the lens itself. I'm going to try to do this all in one take, and the only jump cuts I will be doing will be the jump cuts from stabilization to stabilization. Okay, so now we've got digital stabilization on in the camera, and I'm using my Canon app because I have my microphone, my wireless microphone on top, so I can't see the screen. I think my next video or two is going to be with the Canon app. So this is with the stabilization on in the camera, no stabilization of the lens. All right, so now I have the enhanced stabilization on. I think there's a little bit of a crop on this one, and I'm currently with the EFS 10 to 18. All right, so now we have lens stabilization on, and there is no stabilization in the camera. So once I get to the next point, I'll go ahead and turn the stabilization on in the camera. All right, stabilization on in the camera and stabilization on in the lens itself. So I'm making my way down to the lake right now, and we'll do a quick like B-roll kind of stabilization test as well. All right, so now we got enhanced stabilization on along with the stabilization of the lens. The bench right back behind me is where I'm gonna head to do like a B-roll type experiment, just kind of doing a pan up and then a pan over to the right just to see the reeds in the lake itself. Okay, stabilization, I'm at 10 millimeters. Everything is off on the camera. I'm just going to pan up and then over to the right. And then I'm going to cycle through each one of these with stabilization. Stabilization on in the camera, off on the lens, up to the right. Enhanced stabilization. Stabilization is now off in the camera, on with the lens. Stabilization is now enabled on the camera and on the lens. Now we have the enhanced. All right, so I noticed I just lost my fuzzy thing on my microphone. So I took this off enhanced, and I just have it on the regular stabilization at 10 millimeters. So I'm just backtracking to see if I can find the little wind guard. All right, I found it. It immediately fell off once I put it on. Post a comment down below. Let me know what you guys think about the scenarios. I'm gonna go ahead and walk to my next spot and then just shoot B-roll with the 55 to 200, see what that looks like, and we'll go back to the studio, take a look at the footage, and wrap this video up. All right, before we get on to any more of the stabilization test, I just want to let you guys know that I've heard a couple of people mention that if you have a lens that has internal stabilization on it and you have the camera body on and you take the lens off without shutting it off, it may mess up or damage the internal stabilization on the lens. So just be cautious of that and make sure that you are shutting the camera off before you swap out lenses. All right, let's get back to the test. Okay, 55 to 250 is on here right now. All stabilization is off, the lens and camera. I'm going to pan to the right. Stabilization is on in camera. I'm at 55 millimeters, panning to the right. Enhanced stabilization on. Stabilization on the lens, off in camera. Stabilization on in the camera and the lens. Enhanced is now on, along with image stabilization on the lens. Alright, so now I have image stabilization off on everything, and I'm just going to keep it at 250 millimeters on that log that's there. Image stabilization on in the camera. Mr. Jitters here. Now we've got enhanced on. 250. Image stabilization on in the camera. Sorry. Image stabilization on the lens, off in the camera. Stabilization on in the camera and on the lens. 250 millimeter. Okay, final scenario. Enhanced stabilization on, along with stabilization with the lens. All at 250. So I'm currently on Mesquite Meander Trail. There's like kind of a canopy of trees. I'm going to be walking in and out of shadows. So what I'm going to try to do is get to a point by the river where I think some birds usually are. Throw the 55 to 250 back on there. Try to get some pictures of some birds, and then head home, look at the footage, and give you my final thoughts on the stabilization. All right, so no birds over at Mesquite Meander, so I came back over to Lion Trail. This is where I was a couple of days ago. If you guys follow me on Instagram, you guys saw my rattlesnake picture. So I'm sitting here on the bench, and I heard some rustling over on this log. The log right here. And I heard the noise kind of move in this direction, thought it was just a lizard because there's lizards all over the place. And then it just poked its head up right over this log, and you can see my feeder right here, and it scared the crap out of me. So I'm just gonna go ahead and call this a day. Go back to the studio, take a look at the footage, and then wrap this up. All right, you guys, back into the studio, final thoughts, and then we'll get out of here. First of all, to my eye, taking a look at the footage, I think that I like the standard electronic stabilization in camera coupled with the stabilization turned on in the lens the most. I think that's what I like the most. I kind of looked at the enhanced, and this is hard to describe, but when I had the enhanced on with the 55 to 250, at the very beginning, it held it dead still. But then it got to the point where, as I was trying to keep that log dead center of the image, it got to a certain point and then it sounded or felt like or appeared to jump. And then I overcompensated and tried to get the log back into the center view again, and then it jumped again. So I think I introduced a little bit more shake than I normally would have on the standard. So I didn't particularly care for the enhanced, but I do like the standard. And at the very beginning of the video, you guys noticed that my highlights were completely blown out with that vlogging. And that's because I took off my ND filter. I have step down or step up rings. I always get confused on what they call these. And I had this on the 10 millimeter, and you saw the outside of the ND. So I just took it off and then had to run the risk of having my highlights blown out. So that's what happened there. But when you put it on enhanced stabilization and you're at 10 millimeter, because of the crop, it cropped in and it kind of disappeared the outer edges of the ND filter. But since this was a stabilization test, I just went ahead and took it off and just walked with it that way. And again, I'm not the best B-roll person in the world. I mean, if you guys have seen my other videos, I'm kind of like right to the point. I just get the information out there and then go. So I apologize for the B-roll, but I hope you got an understanding of how the stabilization looked in all of those scenarios. So with all that being said, like, subscribe, share, turn on that bell notification, and stick around because my next video is going to take stabilization one step further by slowing it down. So I'm going to show you guys how to shoot 120 frames per second, put it into Premiere Pro, do some speed ramping, and then enhance your stabilization that much further to get the best out of the camera itself. So with all that being said, I'll see you guys next time. Bye.